Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So tonight we're going to talk about choice, life, some statistics. We're going to give you some real information here about the topic that is dominating the headlines. There's a lot of information out there that is just plain false, and we're going to go through it. You will not really find out my personal opinion on this at this point, mainly because it's irrelevant. Okay, but before we can get into the statistics and all that stuff and the truth behind the matter, we have to address that other issue. Because it's the U.S., we have to address the religious issue. So, okay, friends, I'd like you to join me. Open your Bible to Numbers chapter 5, verse 15. Start reading. Yeah, that is the description of an abortion in the Bible. The reason there's an abortion in the Bible is because the husband, believed the wife cheated on him. If infidelity is a just reason, certainly rape and incest are. Just a thought, though. This is the problem with going to a church. They give sermons where they just jump around in the Bible, and they never actually read the whole thing. You miss out on some pretty important things, and you may walk away thinking something is true that isn't. Okay, now let's talk about heartbeats. 6 weeks. Okay, ventricles don't form until 16 weeks. Maybe heartbeat in the heartbeat law isn't what you think it is. You might want to look into that. At that point, at 6 weeks, the size of the embryo is about the size of a sweet pea. So a third the size of a Florida mosquito. I'll give you a statistic here I really want you to remember. 97% of abortions occur before 20 weeks, or at 20 weeks or before. 97%, remember that number. 20 weeks, 97%. Okay, so some of the arguments that we hear against this is that, well, actions have consequences. They do. They certainly do. But this isn't a natural consequence anymore. It's a manufactured one. It's not a consequence, it's a punishment. The legislature has removed the ability to deal with this. So it's not actually a consequence anymore. This would be very similar to, in the old days, if you cut off your hand, well, you just cut off your hand. Today, we have the ability to reattach it. Well, the legislature thinks you need to be more careful with your Sawzall, so they pass a law saying the doctor can't reattach it. Oh, it's just a consequence. No, it's a punishment. Okay, well, you knew it was a possibility. A car accident's a possibility when you get in a car. And this seems to be something that people don't understand. Consent for sex is not consent to carry a child. That is evidenced by the number of abortions there are. Consent is a very simple concept, but apparently we're losing it in this country. We don't understand it. Okay, this is where we run into the idea that women are using this as birth control. When you go in for an abortion, they actually ask, how many have you had? 8% have had 3 or more. 92% have had 0, 1, or 2. So that really isn't happening. Not to the degree that people seem to believe it is. It's not a thing. Well, convenience abortions are 99% of them. That's true. That is true. But the devil is in the details. How is convenience defined? Basically, 1% of abortions save a life. Everything else is convenience. So if the child would be born with a horrible defect and spend its 2-week life in incredible pain, well, that's convenience. Definitions matter. Well, we've got an abortion pandemic where we're just going crazy. Okay. 2017, there were 879,000 abortions. Seems like a big number. Doesn't seem like a big number when you think that in 2015 there were 903,000, and in 2014 there were 926,000, and in 2011 there were 1.06 million, and in 2008 there were 1.21 million. That's right, the numbers are going down. Why? Because the internet has allowed young people to get sex education in states that only teach abstinence or don't offer it. Education, it's important. Okay, so can you screen a child at 6 weeks to find out about defects that are going to occur? No, you can't. You know when that happens? The first round, the one that tells you whether or not the chance is there, the big chance, that happens at 11 to 13 weeks. At 15 to 20 weeks, there's that number, well, that's when you find out for sure. It's when you find out if they have spina bifida or Downs or whatever. 97% of abortions occur at 20 weeks or before. It's almost like there's a reason for it. Okay, now the other idea that's out there is that this is all just young people running around, hot rodding in their cars and making out in the back seat, right? That's not true either. 31% of abortions are for women over the age of 30. Crazy, isn't it? In fact, if you were to add 25 to 29, well, that's another 27.6%. So 25 and older, that's more than half. It's not what you think it is. The top 3 reasons for having an abortion: not ready. Those are young people. Second one is not having the money, can't afford it. It's almost like poverty plays into this a whole lot. We don't want to address poverty, though. We just want to legislate, abortion, punish people. And then the third reason is they're done having kids. That's right. Those good mothers that actually had their children, that's 59% of women who have an abortion. 59% already have kids. The stigma that is created in the propaganda, it's just not true. It's just not true. Now, the other thing that pops up a lot is, well, I don't see why my tax dollars should pay for this. My federal tax dollars are going to this. No, they're not. They haven't since 1976 when the Hyde Amendment was passed. But my Republican congressman said we're funding Planned Parenthood. Oh, well, they probably did, because Planned Parenthood does a whole lot more than abortion. Federal tax dollars do not go to pay for abortions. They don't. But if that's really an issue, my evangelical friends, you ready to cut off aid to Israel? Because state assistance for abortions, oh, that's widely available there. Widely available. So all the money we give them in aid, well, that enables them to pay for that. You ready to do that? No. You just want to punish the people you can look down on here. You don't actually care about the actual issue. Now, here's an interesting stat. Abortion rates are 3 times higher among people who receive Medicaid. Almost like it has to do with poverty. Poverty is a lack of cash. It's not a lack of character. This is why this is happening. It has to do with money. It has to do with the society we have, but we don't want to address any actual issue. We want a magic bullet because we're the U.S. We don't actually want to have to think about it and come up with any kind of real solution. Well, we'll just pass a law. Great. It's not going to change anything. Now, the real issue when it comes down to all of this is bodily autonomy. And that's where all of this really lies. Now, I did that little short video earlier. And anytime I do something like that, just so you know, I'm researching. I need to know who I'm talking to. I need to know what the real objections are. So I read the comments. A lot of men saying, well, men don't get a choice. You're right. It's not your body. That's how that works. Bodily autonomy. It is not your body. But I have to pay for child support. Fantastic job equating women to property right there. That's brilliant. Your cash is the same as her body? Are you insane? That's not how that works. That isn't how that works, guys. But that's what this whole issue stems from. treating women as property, because we got to keep them in their place, right? I was going to write all of this up in an article, but then I remembered, there's a lot of numbers and facts and statistics in this, and Alabama's 50th in education kind of seemed pointless at that point. But there is the hot debate right now about whether people like me should continue to do workshops and events. I will tell you, the Dothan workshop, it was aborted. We're going to take it to another state. It's what you want us to do, right? Okay. So the real question here isn't any of this. It's, when does life exist, right? No, it's not. It's when does life exist, and the rights of that new life trump the rights of the woman. That's the real question, because that's how you have to measure society, by ethics. Not your morals, not your religion. But when is it okay to put a gun to a woman's head and say, this is what you're going to do with your body? That's the question you have to answer. Now, I have my opinion. What's yours? Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good night.